Okay, all right, let's take a look at the Chapter 7 mid-level. Step 3 is what we're going to focus on with this one, and Step 3 is a biggie, so hang on with me. We've got a lot to get through. Okay, so Step 3 tells us, let's start with the small stuff. Step 3 tells us that in cell L2, we're going to enter a nested logical function, and a logical function is just an if function, which is great. We can do an if this, then that. And it tells us it's nested, and if we, it's an if statement, if this, then that. The that part is display highly valuable in the end, so we're going to remember that. But what does the if part consist of? So it's telling us that we're going to do an if, but within that if, we're going to nest a couple of other things. First of all, we're going to nest an or statement. So we're going to do this release state or all these other things. Either one or the other has to be true. And then, so one or the other is an and statement, right? Because we can do this. It's hard, but we can do this. We've learned all of this stuff along the way. All right, the and statement is here. Sold out is a yes. Percentage increase is at least 500. The addition size is less than 700. So we have the if has to happen, the or has to happen, and the and has to happen. And we'll go through this piece by piece so we can see how that gets built. All right, so I'm going to start on L2. Oh, actually, before I start, I'm going to point out that N and the O columns, here we have the conditions so that we actually don't have to remember all those little things. We'll just point to them. So that's important. Make note of that. All right, now let's go over to the L2. And let's start with our if statement. So just like any function, we start with our equal sign, our if function name, and then the left-hand parentheses. So remember those 3 rules of function making. And then specifically, after every function name, you always have to have that left-hand parentheses. So we have the if. We're starting out with our if. Now we know right away that this has to be an or. One or the other has to happen. So I'm going to type in my or function name, and again do that left-hand parentheses. Okay, so for our or statement, I'm trying to remember, release date is on. Okay, so release date is where? F2. If F2 and then F2, if release date F2 is on or before that end of the year, which resides here in 04, so that's our first part of this or statement, right? If this, then, or not the if, this or this other thing. So that's the first part of the or statement. And what I want you to do now, before we move on, is I want you to think of what's going to happen when we're all done. When we're all done with this great big thing, we're going to copy it down the L column. And when we copy it down the L column, we need to make sure that all of these references stay accurate. So hopefully that makes you think of that this 04 should be an absolute reference. And you're almost exactly right. It should be an absolute reference, but there's also a little trick to this part too. If we only ever copy it down, O will never change because it'll always reference the O column. If we always copy it down, it'll always reference the O column. All right, so the part we have to make sure doesn't change is the 4, because if we copy it down, 4 will change to 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. So we need to make the 4 the absolute reference. So we don't call it an absolute reference. We call it a mixed reference, right? All right. So this is good. This is good, like complicated stuff that we can understand and apply, right? So that's the first part of our or. Now the whole second half of that or statement is all of this stuff from the instructions, and all of that turns into an and, right? We have to do this and this and this. So back to our worksheet. So we're going to type in our and function name, and left-hand parentheses, and let's get started on that. So the first part of the and is sold out status is yes. Here's sold out status. I2 equals yes. And you'll remember that yes, or not yes, but text always goes in quotes, right? And you can sort of think of it like Excel is all about numbers, numbers, numbers. So anytime you're dealing with text, just put it in quotes. All right, so that's one part of it. sold out is yes. Percentage increase is at least 500. And so that's going to look like this. I would click on K2, but I can't because my function is so long now it's getting in the way. So I'm just going to type K2 is greater than or equal to. And remember, we have these guys over here on the right-hand side. K2, yep, is greater than or equal to percent, there it is, 03. And again, we have this same sort of need for a mixed reference. So I'll type in the $ to keep the 3 from changing. Don't want it to change. Comma, what's after K2? Addition size. All right, so then addition size is, let's find that. There it is. Oop, there it is. Addition size. E2 must be less than, let's go back to our conditions. E2 less than O2. Make that a mixed reference so that the 2 doesn't change. All right, so then we have our AND statement is complete, right? We accounted for all of these things. Our OR statement is complete because we accounted for this or that. Our if statement now has to so anyway, I put in the right-hand parentheses because the AND statement is accounted for. I'm going to do another right-hand parentheses because the OR statement is accounted for. Now we have to finish the if. So I'm going to put in a comma. You'll remember that our if statement tells us that we have 3 parts to an if. We have the test. What happens is if the test is true? What happens if the test is false? So we have to put in what happens is the test. If the test is true, what happens if the test is true is the answer is highly valuable. Spell it right. It won't spell check it for you. That's what it'll return if the test is true. If the test is false, it told us to return, somewhere in here it says, where does it tell us that? I remember reading it. It's in here somewhere. Here it is. Enter an empty text string if the conditions are not met. And the way that that looks is like this. It's just double quote, with nothing inside the double quote. So that just returns an emptiness to it, which it is what it is. That's what they tell us to do, so we're going to do that. Okay, then put in the right-hand parentheses to finish up the if statement. Cross your fingers, grab your lucky rabbit's foot, press enter. Oh, I did something wrong. It should work for you. Okay, so it tells me there's a problem. What did I do? Oh, all right. Or, I thought it recognized it. If or right-hand, blue, if or empty. All right, I'm gonna hit. I'm missing something, but I need it to tell me again. I am trying to type a formula. Comma. If so, or just does this or that, and says this and that, E2 highly, comma, I have my commas, I have my if statement, all right, what don't you like for me? If or, comma, and, comma, yes, yeah, comma, highly valuables in, comma, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. One more time. What are you telling me? There's a problem with this formula. Enter the characters you type. I don't have a space in there. Doesn't like this or. I'm going to try it again. Oh, did I accidentally? I'm going to hit enter again. I don't know if I did this or not, but I think I may have accidentally typed a 0 instead of a O. the beauty of Excel, right? It's so logical. It's a puzzle, and there's always something to solve, so you can always find a solution. All right, and then here's what, so do you remember it told us that if it's true, to return the result, highly valuable. If it's not true, return an empty. And so that's why there's nothing in L2, is because the result is empty. Let's autofill this down, double click it. There's only like, I think 11 of these that are true, that say highly valuable. And so don't let it trick you. We can do all of this. This is within the stuff that we've learned in class. So give it a try, see how it goes. Email me if you have any questions at all.